Salve galera do BudoTV, aqui é o professor Thales e eu estou aqui novamente em Connecticut, nos Estados Unidos, na Grandmaster Arnis, na presença do sensei Frank Shekosky, que hoje vai conversar um pouquinho com a gente sobre o Kenpo, o karatê americano. Well, Sensei Frank Shekosky, once again, thank you so much to give us this interview, and please explain to us a little bit about Kenpo karate, American karate. In Brazil, everybody knows the Japanese karate, but there are few people know about the American karate and Kenpo karate. Sometimes it states about one begins and the other ends. So please explain this to us.
Okay, sure. Yeah, so I started my training in the mid-'80s, and I started with sparring. I really enjoyed putting all the gear on and getting in and just really, fighting. That was really my favorite thing. As time went on, I wanted to really learn more about overall martial arts. So my first art that I studied was Shaolin Kenpo, and the art that I learned was based off of the 5 animals: the dragon, tiger, leopard, crane, and snake. And each one had different attributes. For example, the dragon is considered more advanced, it was powerful, but also wise, and indomitable spirit. With that spirit, you just never quit. The tiger was very, very strong and had very powerful techniques. The crane was very graceful and balanced. The snake was very supple and you learned chi and how to strike small targets quickly. The leopard was not quite as strong as the tiger, but it moved fast and through circular motions we gained power. So each of the animals had their own attributes. After several years of training with that, my school changed direction a little bit and got more into the American Kenpo, and that was founded by Grandmaster Frank. And that's a very scientific art. It's based off the laws of motion. And it's just an amazing comprehensive art. So I added a lot of that in, so now I still do teach both. I teach many of the forms with the Shaolin Kenpo, but I do teach a large majority of the American Kenpo as well. From there, after a few years of that training, I got introduced to Grandmaster Frank, and I got into the Modern Arnis, and I was fortunate to train with him for about 14 years. And I found that Kenpo and Arnis go very well together. They both emphasize flow. You should flow well. Also, it's counter to counter. Anything that comes in, you should learn how to counter it. So both of the arts really do have a lot of similarities and work very well together. And then along the way, I learned many different weapons. Enough so that I had my own weapons program called the Kobujitsu program. So I have the Kenpo, which consists of the American Kenpo and Shaolin Kenpo. I have the Modern Arnis, and then I have the Kobujitsu weapons program. I've dabbled in other things along the way. I've done a little boxing and pressure point and Tai Chi, but really my main 3 areas of study are the Kenpo, the Modern Arnis, and the weapons. And I'm finding that's more than enough to spend most of my time training those. I travel around New England and I teach a lot of seminars. I have my information in DVDs, but I just find that they're very powerful martial arts. The American Kenpo has something for almost every type of attack. And it's just very well thought out. It's an amazing design, So I hope that if you haven't studied it, I hope that you do a little research on it, and I think that you'll be happy that you did. Yeah. So we'll do the weights. So I'll just do it right punch. Okay. So my left will step out and do right in the block. I'll do a right front kick on the left here, check in the way. Do my power sword. So that'll be an example of the way sword. There's so many techniques for each art. I'm just giving you like one. An example of the Shaolin technique might be if the punch came in, I might use the tiger claw this way to come in, break the face. So we're using the tiger claws for that. So each one, all both very effective arts. I believe it comes down more to the skill of the student, not so much what art they're doing. But each one has a little different influence, and each one moves in a little different way.
So these short examples sound to me that the American Kenpo has more short movements.
Yeah, they try to use what's called economy of motion. We try to have everything be very efficient in the way that we
interesting.
And every technique that you do causes a reaction in your opponent, and then we will try to capitalize on that for our next move.
How do you explain the importance of the Grandmaster Frank in the development of the American karate?
Well, I just think he learned from different masters, and I think he analyzed that and started to think about what do I like about this, what do I think can be better. And then one day he was watching, I'm told, the video, and then he rewound the video backward, and he got the inspiration for every move can have an opposite and reverse. So he tries to design that whole system based off of the laws of motion. Well, he uses the laws of motion, and he has something called a universal pattern showing all the different ways your body can move. So when I was learning the Shaolin Kenpo, everything had a number, combination number 1, combination number 2. And that's certainly one method to do it. Ed Parker named everything. Because he had a lot of education in like psychology and learning. So he actually put a name to all the different techniques. And it's good because it tells you something about the technique. Delayed story. There's a story in there, but it's delayed, after your kick. So if you get to learn what the names mean, and if you kind of forget the technique, you can think of the name and it kind of jogs your memory a little bit about what the technique is. So at first it seems kind of daunting to people to remember all the names, but in the long run it's actually easier because the name does give you a hint about what the technique is doing.
So every time that the technique has this word in the name is because you have this kind of a counterattack, right?
Yeah, so for example, if you hear mace, it's a closed fifth, it means that there's a mace in the technique somewhere. If you hear buckling branch, it means branch is leg, and there's a kick somewhere in the technique, or you're doing something to the leg. So each name has some meaning with the technique.
So this is easier for the people, to the practitioner, to remember the technique, what's the technique supposed to do, and what's and the targets.
Yeah, I think so. I think it does help.
In American karate, it's more focused on competition or self-defense. I imagine that's self-defense, right?
The way I see it, there's really 3 main aspects. You have survival martial arts, which is all the self-defense I was showing you. Somebody comes at you and you can present yourself. There's demonstrative martial arts. That's entertaining, that's educational, people doing the high kicks and breaking boards and entertaining people and telling you a little bit about what we do. And then you have the sport aspect, which means there's rules and there's trophies and medals and all of that. So it's hard for me to say what's most popular is, but in my mind, there's those 3 aspects. So we do have a demo team for the demonstrative part. We do have a tournament every so often to teach you how to compete, but then our main curriculum is really more the self-defense and survival part of it. So those are the 3 aspects in my mind, the way I break it down.
And let me ask you about the weapon training in Kenpo Karate. This exists here in Pro Martial Arts because of you, that you have this background in different weapon systems, or it's coming to find this kind of a training also in other schools of Kenpo Karate.
I'm not finding it common. I'm finding a lot of people come to me because they're doing the research. They can't find a lot of schools that teach a whole curriculum of weapons anymore. And I teach more like the actual fight part of the curriculum, not so much like for tournaments. And people are having a hard time finding that. So I have people come from all around the state where they want to learn the program. I just started learning because I enjoyed it. And the more time went on, I finally got enough weapons where people said you should really have a whole curriculum that you teach you. They have all these different weapons. We have swords inside, nunchucks, sticks, and knife, and all of those.
You have the traditional ones, and also the kind of weapons that you can find in the cities, in the big cities nowadays.
Yeah. So I really enjoyed that program. There's always an argument they say, well, it's not really that practical, but I never started to learn it for practicality. I think the bow staff and sticks are pretty practical, but I just enjoy doing it. It's a good workout. It's fun. And if you look at a lot of the people considered the greatest masters and students, most of them have some weapon training. If you look back, almost all have some type of weapon training. So I just think it's good to at least explore it and see if it's for you or not.
Na última entrevista, você comentou uma frase que eu gostei muito. Eu gostaria que você repetisse para o pessoal e explicasse, que eles chamam de que aprender uma ativação é como usar você de segurança. Você precisa, não é que você tem que usar, mas eu queria que você repetisse porque eu acho muito importante para as pessoas saberem mais.
I think that what goes hand in hand with your training is having your philosophy. For example, I think it's more than fighting, it's about self-development as well. That's just my philosophy, and some people have a different one. So my thinking in terms of learning self-defense is it's kind of like when you drive your car, you hope you're not going to get to a car crash, and you shouldn't be afraid every second, but it makes sense to wear a seatbelt just in case, because you could get in a crash. So my self-defense training is the same way. I don't think you should walk around afraid every day you think you're going to get into a fight, but it makes sense to have some training to invest in yourself in case it does happen. You know, if you just watch the news for 5 minutes, you see the world. It seems like it's, you know, there's a lot of conflict in the world. And I think it makes sense just to have some type of training. But you shouldn't walk around in fear every day. It's no way to live. So that's my philosophy of self-defense. It's kind of like wearing a seatbelt in your car.
Então, Sensei, muito obrigado pela entrevista. É sempre uma honra poder estar aqui na Grandmaster Martial Arts. Para quem quiser conhecer mais do trabalho do senhor, quiser saber sobre seminários, DVDs, vídeos, aulas, aonde que as pessoas procuram?
Yeah, we have a pretty good website. It's primalmartialarts.com. My Instagram also is Primal Martial Arts. And we have DVDs for all the levels of Kenpo and Modern Arnis, and we have a few for the weapons program. I do private lessons in person and also via Zoom. So if somebody from a distance wanted to train, we can do that through Zoom. But I'd like to thank you for coming in, and I thank you for the interview.
Thank you. Let's say once again, thank you so much.
Welcome.
And para você da BudoTV, não esquece de curtir e se inscrever aí no canal, tá bom? Valeu, gente. Até a próxima.